I'm talking to like a legal team, and we're putting together a way to try and get the money from the course back, just because, from what I believe, it wasn't worth it, and because of like inaccuracies, like spelling mistakes, grammatical errors. I don't think it's like the quality that they claim. There was this one bit where I did like a nutrition exam. Um, they answered the question, they told me it was wrong, and then when I resubbed it, I like told them exactly why it's not wrong and why their explanation of it, why it was wrong, is like completely flawed.
Welcome to The Bonfire, the tribe's exclusive community-driven podcast all about self-improvement. I have with me today a very special guest, Fletcher. Fletcher has been on his fitness journey for almost 3 years now, and personal training for about half of that tenure. Now, he leads Iron Fangs, our fitness group. He's had quite the journey so far on his path to personal development, and I'm happy to have him today to share his story. Hey Fletcher, how you doing today?
Hey man.
I wanted to basically talk a bit about your self-improvement journey today and just get to know you more in depth and sort of what brought you here to the tribe. So before we talk about how you started out, I want to ask, like, what were some projects or online communities you were involved in before coming to the tribe?
I just, when I was younger, I had a lot of drive and motivation and probably too much time. So I did something which, a lot of people did for sure, but at least I was doing something, and that was just, the old like YouTube channel. Um, for literally like 2 years, from the age of like 12 to 14, I was making daily videos, and these were things I'd spend like a couple hours recording, a couple hours editing. I I basically got nothing from it. I think I made 74 in like AdSense, because like anyone could be monetized back then, but these like really trash videos, because I didn't know how to edit properly or really like storytell. Um, I enjoyed making them, and I was quite passionate about it. And that was kind of like the first project I was kind of working on. A few years go by, well, from the start point. And I'm still doing this, just not as like frequently as I used to. But I and a few friends that I met through just like playing Minecraft, we wanted to start this kind of, I don't even know what it was, in honesty, like looking back, but it was this thing called like the Lotus Agency or something, and we didn't really get far with it. All we did is we created this topology of like managers, SEO guys. Um Bearing in mind, this is like 6 years ago. I have no idea what we were doing. Maybe 7 years ago. I'm not sure. But we created this whole like infrastructure and hierarchy for this project that never came out, where we were gonna like, I think, do news stuff on YouTube, and then we would have like bloggers and like an entire team dedicated to building this like digital brand. Um, it was really interesting, really strange. Don't know where it came from, because even back then people weren't sort of like talking about that sort of thing, but it it existed, I guess. I guess. After that, you know, um, I saved up some money from, I think, doing chores around the house, and I started this Minecraft server, which again didn't really like get anywhere, but we built this like entire like hub basically with the server and like a lobby, and we put together a bunch of different things like factions, or like one-on-one PvP, just a ton of stuff. And that also, it got it got too expensive. We didn't know how to market it, and then we closed it down. But when I was younger, I didn't really understand too much how that sort of stuff worked, and so I didn't really like close the payment down. I was 15, but I guess I wasn't too smart. Um, because I didn't properly close down the payment, I was still getting charged, and then they started saying like debt collection, like stuff to me, and I ended up basically getting out of it, because I, I couldn't like enter a contract at like that age because I lied. So they didn't care, and it was like a small amount. It was like $12. So they kind of just said, okay, you can get away with this. But yeah, that was a thing. And then for the next few years, it was like I was in college, which is from the age of like 16 to 18 here. And I got big into to like modeling and like acting. So most of my time would be spent with my friend group, where we would just go places and take like a ton of photos, varying ideas and like cool concepts, or we would make a ton of short films. A few of them I have like hidden on my computer. I still have a majority of the files, but we just made tons of these stories. Actually, there's a really good one which I need to send to you. But but um but yeah, like that was kind of what I enjoyed and loved doing, and that's what I worked on for a bit. But then obviously, COVID happens, so I I took a big risk on myself. But it's when I started freelancing, and what I did is I had opened a credit card when I turned 18, just for like to have good credit, and it had like a 7 month no interest as like a starting thing. And so what I did is I took money I'd saved up from working as a paintball instructor, which was my weekend job, and I used a credit card to like buy. I put the two monies together, half and half, and I bought this like computer, like my dream PC. Something I've been wanting since I was like super young to build myself as just something that was cool. And I was like, I have 6 months to make this money back. Didn't about 2 months. I just set myself up. I established myself where I was getting a decent amount of clients, and because of COVID, it was quite linked. Everyone was looking for like online freelancers and stuff. Everyone had these kind of projects that they wanted to start, and I was like the go-to guy for everybody. But alongside that, I start streaming, which is one of those other, I love content. Like I love entertaining people, um, and like telling good stories. And so the second I was able to stream and had that computer, I started doing it every single day, where I would just, do like long, long, long streams. Unfortunately, part of the reason I actually stopped is, well, I guess a big reason was university, but an even bigger reason was I wasn't able to tell the stories I wanted because I didn't have the tools. And that kind of hit hard because I didn't want to endlessly play like Bed Wars on like Minecraft or something. I wanted to actually entertain with, like ideas and something new. So
Right.
unfortunately, it wasn't like, as what I'd wanted from it. Another project that didn't continue, and that was like as a freelancer, I reached out to a bunch of others and I tried to put together this agency which would handle everything in house because we had like copywriters and graphic designers, and then a lot of the stuff I would do is like project management. So I wanted to be like a one-stop shop where someone came there and then knew that everyone they needed was there and they were like creditable and stuff. But I didn't really get off the ground because it was so difficult to find clients. So I just let everyone go. Um, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a big project to like kind of cap it off. Because my tangent was if you had to put it on a timeline, like from those
Mhm.
Minecraft days to doing short films at university to this agency thing that you were just talking about, like how long, how many years was that for you?
This is like what, 10 years, 10, 8 years.
Wow, so you've been involved in like a lot of different things before the tribe.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the common denominator in the terms of like why they didn't do too well is I suffer with like internal motivation. I kind of need like someone above me for like that to be like an external like motivation, or someone like making sure that I'm actually staying on track and that there's like consequences to not putting in the work.
Tell me about how you found the tribe then. So what was that experience like at the beginning for you joining us?
Well, there was a lot of people will mention it, but there was an external self improvement server, and they established this kind of feature where you could join a tribe, and instead of being like around 200,000 people talking nonsense, you're kind of filtered into a people who are a bit more driven on what they're going for. And so the day they did that, I really really wanted to get in, but it was full, so I guess it turned out as a good thing because if it wasn't for on that day where they had like only X amount, if I'd got in, then I wouldn't be in this tribe. But uh, when it finally when they created a few more, I was able to join this one, and I tried to immediately start giving advice because built up some knowledge with fitness, general health, nutrition, and stuff. Where I just wanted to be someone people could go to and just kind of get that area of expertise and help alongside their journey.
That's awesome, man. And from what you've told me so far about your life, it sounds like you've also built up this wealth of knowledge too. So I wanted to take it upstream now. Tell me about your life outside the community. Who are you, and what's your life story so far?
So I'm not gonna do the whole like, oh, I'm an immigrant story, but I was born in New Zealand, which it's part of the Commonwealth, so it's not like I really struggled. But we moved here when I was 3 years old, and I don't know why I'm giving this information because it's kind of irrelevant. But for the most part of my life, like I have been a very money driven guy, or at least I wanted to build something that showed its value through money. Like money was maybe an afterthought, but you can't really deny that it is a very good indicator of how well something is, like how successful it is.
For sure.
Um, and like even when I was like 8 years old, we used to go to church, and the kind of letters that they have for like donations, like cards where you tick a box, you write your like info, and you put it in an envelope. I would grab those when they came round, and I would use tape and scissors, and I would create it into a trading card game. And this was like when I grew up, I wasn't allowed like Pokemon or like Dragon Ball Z or like any of those sort of things. So this was like my own trading card game, and I it was so complex, and there were so many different things going on and like metrics. I've still got it in like a briefcase like under my parents' bed, but I I would just spend like all my time there kind of creating this game, and my end goal was to like turn it into a proper game for the App Store, like to code it later on. Never really got there, but like I've always kind of had I've always been wired a bit differently where I've been focusing on building things instead of just kind of like enjoying things or doing what everyone else is doing, watching football or going out and playing. So so, so yeah, but currently, outside of a lot of the main stuff people see from me, through university, I have a group of friends there, and we like regularly go to the arcade. It's usually a Thursday, which is today actually, but I had this podcast instead to do.
Nice.
But yeah, we would go, play a few dance games. It's kind of like a closed community, but kind of anyone from like any walk of life will be a part of it. Like the amount of people you can meet randomly, like a few Bitcoin billionaires just like they randomly like pop in because there's so little of the machines in this country where anyone who's traveling or anyone who has a story and plays the game, you're just gonna bump into them really. But that's basically the question. That's the best way I can put this sort of stuff.
Wow, man. Sounds like, yeah, definitely sound like a driven guy. And thank you for taking the time to do this podcast. Hey, maybe after this, I'll put on my video and I'll jump over to the arcade and I'll play in some DDR. So I'm curious then, how did you discover self improvement exactly, and what started you on your journey?
Yeah, so when it comes to the like the building yourself, well, building like a business, building a company, that sort of stuff, which you could argue is part of self-improvement, just because money can be the base for a lot of the things you need to kind of get going on improving yourself.
No,
That's kind of always been there.
I definitely
Yeah,
agree. I
yeah, yeah.
definitely think it's an aspect of it.
Yeah, that's always been there. But when it comes to like actually starting it, what what happened? It's kind of like a difficult story, but um, during COVID when I was like building all this stuff up, and like a lot of money was being saved, and all of my time was spent working. Really, I didn't really leave the house for I don't know how long it was, but a few months, probably closer to a year, where I just didn't really leave, like not even to just get some fresh air. All of my time was just spent working, trying to build up as much money as possible. Um, and at the end of it, I got like super, super weak and super, super like skinny and super atrophied. And like I've always been quite a skinny guy. Like that's my natural kind of resting point of the body. But this was like worse than usual. And then one of the friends I used to stream with and like play video games with quite consistently, um, he was very into the gym, and the near my house a gym had opened. I've always wanted to like do that sort of stuff, but there's never been anything like accessible enough for me. So when I found out that this one had like opened near my house, I like took the opportunity to ask him to like put something together for me, and then like I joined and kind of like I don't know, obsessed almost over like every little thing about it, where I just went down the rabbit hole of just you know reading everything and like watching everything and just learning, and also kind of like learning based on my own personal experiences and stuff. And maybe a year into that or something, I watch a video on my like recommended page, which is just it was this video called like um the guide to like bodybuilding or something. I don't know what it was. Like guide to an aesthetic physique, from Hamza. And watching him, I kind of got a bit more involved in the self-improvement side, and it wasn't all about fitness anymore. It was more so about um focusing a bit more on like mental health, or like social relationships, and kind of growing not just inside the gym and like my muscles, kind of just growing everywhere.
Right. Becoming like a more well-rounded person. I like that.
Yeah.
So, what were some up and down moments you experienced early on?
Um. Well, when I when I first started, I was very committed to spending as much money as possible to kind of to improve my like overall like being, if that makes sense. And I stretched myself a little bit too thin, where I spent too much money, and um, it got to the point where like I had to kind of to fight for like every penny and really start focusing on like making sure I had like enough work to supplement some of the stuff I was doing. But it like I always got by. I've never actually had like a point in my life where I've suffered when it comes to money. It's always been something where the balance could get to zero, but the next day is when I get paid, or stuff like that. Like something always comes through. And as someone who mostly freelances and doesn't really have like consistent income, that's quite cool, because it's not even something I intend to do. It's something that just it just happens. But currently where I am is actually quite good, because I'm I'm entering a place where each month I'm coming away with more money instead of coming away with like none. But pretty happy about that. When it comes to like ups in the early journey, I definitely think that because of like the atrophied state like I kind of like came from when I started, my progress was super, super quick. And looking back, it's a bit of a shame, because the program my friend made me was like so intense. It had something like 10 exercises per day. It was push pull legs. There was one rest day a week, and then it had like 4 sets of everything. And honestly, I don't know what sort of work capacity I had back then. I probably wasn't pushing myself too hard, but when I look back at that workout, if I did that today, I would just die.
Dude,
Like it
that's a
was
lot.
I
Starting,
know, it's like
especially
it
when you're
was
starting out. Oh my god.
yeah, I don't know what he was thinking, to be honest. Um I remember there was like, I was so weak, but on like push day you ended it with like 100 push-ups and 100 dips. and I couldn't even do one dip or push up, like let alone at the end of the workout. But like obviously over time, as I started to learn more stuff on my own, I was like, what was this guy doing when he gave this to me? For a while, I was convinced he's never actually been to the gym and he just like put something random together. But um, but yeah, I found something that worked really well for me, and I'm still learning to this day stuff that actually works better, or like mistakes I've made in the recent in the recent past, and stuff like that.
So speaking about the recent past, like what are some things that still challenge you today?
Um, well, I can't really say to what still challenges in me in terms of like knowledge because I don't know it yet. But recently, I kind of made a bit of a shift from um like when it comes to intensity and volume, where I've just dropped my training volume a ton to focus on intensity, and I've been seeing consistently a lot better results from that. The reason I don't really recommend this to people though is when you tell someone to do low volume training, even if you try and get them to train hard, a lot of them just won't train hard enough where it actually like works or benefits them. And so that's why it's still good to like, recommend that 3 sets of like 10 to 12 or whatever. But yeah, that's kind of like a recent thing in terms of knowledge where I've just made that shift and doing a lot better from what I'm getting out of the work I'm putting in.
That's awesome, man. So I want to take it to your area of expertise. Tell me about personal training and why exactly did you start that as a career path for you right now?
Yeah, so when I got into the whole fitness stuff, I because of like the almost obsession over everything about it and just always learning and everything there, I became very knowledgeable when I like entered uni, where I was kind of like the go-to guy for advice. We had like a uni Discord server, and I was always I was always giving fitness advice to anyone who really needed it. But a couple months in, one of my friends wants to start the gym, and then what we do is me and another friend we start we start going every single, I think it was Tuesday. We go every Tuesday and we make these like gym sessions where we're just hanging out, and I'm kind of like teaching but at the same time slightly working out. And through that, I started to really, really enjoy like actually training people and putting together programs, keeping them on track, making sure their progress is good, and just helping them with their form and everything like that. And one of my friends told me that I should do like an online course, which ended up being like a really big mistake, but I'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
So I ended up doing that, and that's actually kind of what I spent like a lot of money on because it was like 5K for the course, and I can't remember how much money I'd built up in savings, but like that was an expensive thing to do, but I purchased it and started going through it. The issue the issue there is I noticed that a lot of the stuff they were teaching was was like either one of three things. It was like wrong, like really simple where everyone would know it, or it just like the tiny like 1% of it would actually be useful to me. Um, and so I like stopped the course after the first like 2 sections, of which is like 19. By the way, this is like the best personal training like I don't know what the word is, like credit, what is it, accreditations, what would you say it is?
Accreditation?
Maybe we'll use that word. It was one of the best in like the country, and they've been around the longest, they've had the most people come through, so that's kind of like a representation of like the best in England, and they sucked. um I I know I mentioned like a different like I know mentioned like a different like law case to you earlier,
Yeah.
but
Man,
I'm in
it
like the
sounds like it,
process of talking.
it sounds like anything fitness related in the UK sucks.
Maybe. I'm talking to like a legal team, and we're putting together a way to try and get the money from the course back, just because from what I believe, it wasn't worth it, and because of like inaccuracies, like spelling mistakes, grammatical errors, I don't think it's like the quality that they claim. There was this one bit where I did like a nutrition exam. Um, I answered the question, they told me it was wrong, and then when I resubbed it, I like told them exactly why it's not wrong and why their explanation of it, why it was wrong, is like completely flawed. And then they accepted that as like a thing, but it's one of those things where if you're if you're like one of those providers where you're giving people certificates and stuff, if something changes and what you learn, new studies come out and stuff like that, then you should definitely be sending some sort of like newsletter to everyone you've given a certificate to, saying something like, this is no longer true,
Right.
this is like, we're doing our like due diligence to make sure that your certificate is still accurate of like, the sort of knowledge and insight we can provide. So we're just letting you know. There was never anything like that. Like, they've never once come out and said this isn't true anymore, or even the thing I brought up to them, they never ever updated their like teaching on that, even though they accepted the fact that my explanation was something that like disproves like an entire thing they were teaching. But so yeah, hopefully
So
I do get the money back.
that's okay. So in summary, basically a certified course that you bought that was
Hmm.
made by qualified trainers just had inaccurate old information that essentially like they're just not doing their due diligence to fix. And now they're just giving false information at this point to people who are still using that course.
Yeah, and it's the sort of thing like instead of updating their courses, they'll just update the software, which like teaches the exact same content. Don't get me wrong, it's not bad because a few of the courses I did were so outdated in terms of like their UI that it physically hurt to go through it, and it would like crash every few seconds, or it would take like a minute to like load the next section just because it was so poorly optimized. But even then, you got to update the content.
Yeah,
But I don't know.
no, but I agree because like you would think qualified trainers would like give a shit about what they're talking about. It sounds like it's just a smaller microism of a bigger problem the internet has because there's so much disinformation online about fitness, right?
Mhm.
That's crazy. So, I mean, outside of this, like just backtracking, I'm curious then, was there a moment for you personally where you just realized you love personal training and you wanted to be better than those other kind of courses or trainers that like outside of the ebook mistake obviously, like did you just kind of have a moment where you realized that I could do this better?
I think everyone gets that moment when they see, well, maybe not actually wanting to be it, but knowing they could do better by, if you go into any commercial gym and you watch, like, pretty much, like 99% of the personal trainers, they will do something which makes you go, like, what are they doing? Like, the amount of stuff I've seen, it can be, like, so bad sometimes. Um, and I think that definitely is probably when, I had, like, a beginning of that sort of thought forming. But what probably did it, where I became really interested in kind of like sharing my knowledge and having proper in-depth conversations about it with people, is my first day at uni. I, I'd spoken on like our uni Discord a little bit, and I'd like gotten to know a couple people, and um decided to like meet one of the people I'd met in like the kind of like student area. And so he was like the first guy I ever met. It was really awkward because his his Discord username was something really cringe, so I didn't want to say it. Um, and it was just me and him, so we kind of like sat there in silence for about 10 minutes at like other sides of this room because we didn't know if the other person was it. And then eventually, I went up and asked him if he was uh, that guy. But that entire day, I kind of skipped my lectures and seminars and stuff, and I just went from person to person through this guy's like essentially entire friend group. As different people would come in, someone would leave, and then I'd stay with them, like get to know them, and like move on to the next kind of rotation of people who come through. And a big part of that became like me bonding over the gym with certain people. And that's probably why it became like a core part of what I brought to kind of to my friend group, I guess, because everyone else was coming in knowing everybody, and I had this one topic I knew I could talk about. So that's kind of like what I established for myself. Whilst everyone else knows everyone, I kind of had to put in a little bit more effort. So I need to at least focus on that one thing I know we have in common. But of course, over time, we found more interests, and it was less focused on that. But I still kept that like enjoyment and just passion for it.
That's great. I'm glad to hear it. And it sounds like you really built like, some solid connections just from this topic. So how has like personal development helped you along on your fitness journey? Like how has self-improvement helped contribute to that success?
I definitely think when it comes to recovery, like stress management, making sure that my sleep is good, which like I like to see a lot of these things as supplementing like fitness in general, which is kind of like my main focus, whilst also being like super important in their own regard. But as soon as kind of like started self-improvement and I made some changes, there was like a noticeable benefit in everything. And I got to a point where I no longer wanted like the best parts of my day to be working out. I wanted to have other things within my day that I could enjoy, and that definitely helped me find those sort of things.
Right now, when you look towards the future, what is the aim and the mission of your self-improvement journey?
I did a thing where for a while the way of like tracking what I want to achieve in a month or in a year was just by writing on pieces of paper. I had a few sections. I had a fitness section, a section like related to school, one related to more of my professional business, um, one of like content creation, like channel focused or that sort of stuff, and then a social slash life section. And back in what is this November 7th, 2021, in my fitness section, I basically wrote like a bunch of like just random stuff where it's like I want this squat, I want this deadlift, I want this bench press. Um, I want a V taper, I want defined legs and pretty detailed. That's kind of like what that was all about. Um, but then you have like the kind of the more self improvement stuff where it's like I want my mind to be clear. I want to I want to keep like talking to new people, building new connections, working on like my socializing's great, but I've never talked to strangers, and I kind of wanted to incorporate that into my life as some uh to keep things new and interesting. And then school section's just a bunch of rubbish. Like I want to get a first. That's basically what I wrote there. Like I want a first class honors. Um, uh, professional side, it was kind of my main goal was to pay myself back and also pay off debt, as I had built up a little bit of company debt. And it was something like 800, and I just wanted to focus on paying off that. And then after that's done, consistently for a while now, I've been paying myself and reporting the payment to like HMRC, which is just the government. But I haven't physically given myself the money, so I like owe myself a ton of money, and that's kind of like long term. I want to pay back the like 17K or whatever it is I technically owe myself. uh, and then when it comes to like content wise, um, like even back in this in November of 2021, I put I want to start coaching people. I want to grow a mailing list, and I want to sell supplements. And then I put like I want to get 10K subs, like something like a cool goal there. And then some other stuff, it's not so much anymore, but back then I really wanted to learn Mandarin. Um, and I wanted to like run a sports society at my uni. That's probably not going to happen anymore, just because um, it's such an effort to get that. But yeah, that
What?
was like the sort of goal.
Why Mandarin? of all
I don't know.
languages. Yeah.
Well, okay, that's not entirely true. For like the 2 months before then, like with university, uh, we'd go to a lot of like Chinese restaurants, and I really wanted to just be able to like order in Chinese.
Ah,
So
yeah.
that was basically the only reason.
That's a
But yeah,
that's
uh, I've I've had phases of doing these things where I write like my monthly goals or my like quarterly goals. They're not. I'll go through long periods of not doing this, just as things like as I get distracted and things get busy. But I always try and have like a rough outline of what I want to achieve. And of course, journaling, like I've like been on and off it, but for the past like 5 months, maybe by 5 months I mean like a month. But trying to like trying to make it sound a bit more impressive. But I've consistently been writing the things I'm grateful for, what I want to focus on for that day, or what my intentions are, and stuff like that has really helped just kind of remove a bit of the darkness and focus on the good things, because there is always something good. Like if we go to the 23rd of April 2023 on the Sunday, it literally just goes, I'm grateful that I can go to the gym. I'm grateful that I'm able to continue growing my brand. And I'm pretty sure on that day, there wasn't really too much going on. Actually, it's kind of funny because when I wrote my intention for this day, it's something which I wrote for the next 3 days, where it just says, I need to focus on my leads because I'm spending money on them and I'm just not talking to them. Because I went through this phase of just being so busy that I accidentally neglected all these leads that are coming from like my Google ads. And every single day that they were just sitting in my inbox, they're like, it's a higher chance it'll just be a missed conversion.
yeah.
But that sort of stuff, I really do love journaling, especially when I have more like insightful things to write about, where I do like a general kind of thought process, or I plan like financials and the strategy I have for like the next few months or something like that when I get a new opportunity. So it helps, man, especially as you can look back and remind yourself of why you should be grateful.
Man, that's awesome, and it makes me really happy to hear it. It sounds like that passion and drive you had in the Minecraft days never really went away, huh?
I wish the editing passion stayed because the YouTube channel I'm like running at the moment and trying to like build up and stuff.
Yeah, you want to put your plug in here?
No, it's not a plug. It's just
Yeah,
it's a talking point.
okay. I'm kidding.
I filmed my first video for that back in November of 2021.
Yeah.
Like it's 2023, and the video came out like like,
Oh,
basically 2 years. Like that's why
that's
I look
why
so
you look
different
so
in my
different.
videos,
Okay, okay.
because in one I'm like a baby, and then I'm like 20. But it just the editing portion. Well, I have kind of like two ideas of why it took me so long to get out. I think a lot of my first content, and you can kind of notice it, as the editing is quite like neurotic. It's quite like dopamine, like nostalgic films, like music and whatever. And
Mhm.
then you have ones which are a bit kind of less messed with and more just talking in a conversation. But I think at first I was making what I thought people wanted to see, and that led to me not really being too engaged or caring too much, even though I really wanted like a channel to help people. Um, so I think those videos, I just didn't really care about getting them out because I didn't have a connection to them. And then I hate editing, and the editing style I was doing, which didn't always look that great, but there was so much going on where I'd watch through, I'd make my cuts, and then I'd watch through again, and on a notepad I would write anything I could interject, like any B-roll I could find. And I tried to do a lot of like nostalgic things because I wanted people commenting like, "Oh, did you use like, well, that's Indiana Jones, no, you used the Lost Ark." Stuff like that. I wanted people to feel a connection through their like childhood and watching those films growing up. But it was such a chore to do and I hated it. And it's why my editing style has like changed a bit drastically, like now that I'm doing this kind of like weekly content. But that's one of the main reasons it took me like 2 years to just get stuff out that I'd filmed. And now that it's out, I have to keep the ball rolling, and the best motivation is the fact that it's like the feeling of impending doom if I miss a Sunday. So
Yeah, when you dropped your first
yeah,
5 videos, I was like, man, there's no way you could look this different with just a haircut. So I was trying to like
yeah. I
figure
mean,
out like where on the timeline like you were like filming and stuff. Cause yeah, dude. I
there's
mean, I'm just happy you're outputting because like that's the most important part, right?
yeah. I mean, there's there's a few differences. I don't think I've had a video. Okay, so the most recent stuff where like my backdrop is different. That's from when I was in a hotel. I I do like mystery dining stuff, right? And there came a time where I had to like rework some of the things I was doing with my life and like where I wanted my kind of future to. I know everyone's done this, they have their like spiritual journey or whatever, but I had mine and I was able to do it for free based on like the hotel mystery dining. And so I just went out to this hotel. I think it was like I don't know how many months ago, but it was possibly this year. Like that's how like it's not recent, but it's close enough that I think it was this year. And I went out there and I just took a notepad, my iPad, and I wanted to film some stuff, work out what I wanted to do. And that's kind of like me from back then. Um, I look a bit different now. The thing I've got, I don't want to plug stuff, but like the
Yeah.
thing I'm coming out soon, you'll see like how I look a little bit different too. But I've had a lot of changes over the years from just like facial hair, facial structure because like bulking and cutting, or like I don't know how much sodium I consume or something ridiculous. But
Dude, that's so cool though that you took like you just took some private time away to stay at a hotel. That's like that's that's the Grand Budapest Hotel. Like your life is a film, bro. Like that's so funny. Um I'm kind of curious, like what were some revelations you found out about yourself at one of these like hotel experiences?
uh, I think the biggest thing was that I realized I never really have like quiet time where I'm not thinking about something, and that's what really pushed me to read. Like I hate to say it, but meditation's something I do now and I really, really enjoy. But it's not something that's always been there because when I would do it, I couldn't do it consistently enough because sometimes I kind of like struggle with those sort of routines until it becomes a habit. But my time there really helped me understand that I just, I need to switch my brain off. I need at least 5 minutes a day where I'm focused on just not really thinking and kind of being mindful of my surroundings instead of what's going on in my head. Um, and it kind of like grounded me a little bit. But the big goal of that kind of stay away too was to focus on the fact that I knew I wanted to be developing this brand and I knew that I had to like make a change to get this stuff out and to work out what sort of stuff I wanted to do. It coincided with like I run a TikTok like periodically across time, and it kind of coincided with me restarting that somewhat. I think because I plan a few things. I'm not 100% sure if I actually redid the TikTok back then, but I do know that that's something now where it is quite linked into the sort of information I want to throw out. It's like the kind of short form side. And that was like the big understanding of I want to be doing this long form stuff. I don't really want to be sitting around doing a bunch of like 5 minute videos and then spending 5 hours editing it just to add like I don't know SpongeBob clips. So
Right. So I guess now that you're part of the tribe, how has working in this community helped contribute to that purpose?
my aim is really just to help people, to give them that information. I went to the hospital once to go to like for a mystery diner thing to get a sandwich. I've always wanted to help people, and I always get these like really like big thoughts of like grandeur or whatever the phrase is, where I kind of for a few moments I imagine myself going down a certain road and like it's really like unlikely to happen,
Like a grand
very very
gesture.
impossible. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
basically. But when I exited the hospital, I kind of thought a little bit about how like underfunded and how like struggling these hospitals are. And then I was just like, man, if things go well, I'm gonna buy a hospital. And like for a good 5 minutes, I was just walking down the street with like a smile on my face and like that thought in my mind of like, I'm gonna buy a hospital. But like,
Most guys say like we should buy a bar.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
balls are cool, I guess.
But like, so what brought you to the idea of a hospital?
Just being able to like provide help to people. Like
Yeah.
the ones here are kind of you're stuck behind waiting times or waiting times. So
Hey, it's the same thing in Canada, man. That's beautiful. And it really does coincide with your whole kind of purpose and fulfillment that you find from health and personal training and fitness, right? Just taking care of your
yeah,
body. Wow. So was it really like a 5-minute revelation that brought you to kind of arrive at that conclusion? Like maybe one day in the future, like this could be something you could do. You could
it
see
was just
yourself
like
doing. Yeah.
I walked out the hospital doors and that was on my mind. There wasn't really any thinking. It was just something that popped up.
Right. Interesting. Well, maybe in the future I can buy some Fletcher branded supplements at his Fletcher branded store at the Fletcher branded hospital down the street. It's
This just
all
sounds like a monopoly. I don't know if this is the way I was. This isn't what I wanted. I'm the problem now.
you know that Joker quote? It's
Well,
like you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
yup. It's also I don't know if you've seen, but in Japan they have like Pikachu on airplanes just because Nintendo has such a monopoly there where they're putting it on the planes.
Oh my god. It sounds like you still have a lot going on in your life right now. So how has working in a community in the tribe helped contribute to like all these purposes that you're taking on?
I think it's been a good kind of like tie around everything because a lot of the things are linked and especially some of the projects that I'm going to be, working on soon, being able to have that external like motivation and deadlines and someone kind of holding me accountable for making sure that things are running well. It just lets me kind of pour my like work and passion into something where I know it's going to do well just because of those two things. Like every time I worked with someone as an employee, it kind of sucks because I have completely changed their companies. I have given such like insightful ways to change like core or fundamentals of their business or how they're running certain just random stuff. Like I'm always learning and finding new things to bring to them. And that's only because I'm being paid. And I love like learning and exploring and testing things out. So when I'm working for someone else or I have like someone above me holding me accountable, it brings out that side of me. But when I'm like the boss myself, it's a bit different because I don't have anyone like holding me to it. Which is why there's something I always say, which is really annoying. But I always say that I wish I had a Fletcher as an employee, not as a boss. Because if I had that, then like, every single thing I did would be like super successful and it would all work out. Maybe not some of the like younger me stuff where I'm a little bit less knowledgeable and a bit more immature, but definitely the stuff now.
That's great, man. So is there any advice you would give to younger Fletcher if he saw you today? Do you think he'd be surprised about how you turned out?
Uh, I think there'd be a shock factor, but at the same time, I think a lot of the characteristics I've always had have been linked to this sort of stuff. I've been linked to like building businesses or trying new things out. And I've always had a love or a long-term passion of okay, so I don't really like sports, but I've always wanted to be part of a gym. Like I've always looked up to the kind of the bodybuilding physiques and always wanted to, you know, try and get towards that sort of thing, have like my own crack at it. And I think if I saw like me now with that sort of long term like idea, I think I wouldn't be too surprised. When it comes to um my success, I'd probably be impressed, but I would be a little bit confused why things weren't bigger than what they could have been. But for the most part, the advice I'd give myself is to just keep like messing with stuff. Like even if you spend all your money, just keep, throwing stuff at the wall, seeing what happens, like always learn and just keep broadening the experiences that you're in because eventually it's going to pay off and you're going to have so many tools in your toolbox where you're just going to become like too valuable.
Man, that is awesome. And wow, you had such an amazing journey, dude. Just from experiencing all these different sort of niches and passions and kind of putting it all together now. It's like you really, I feel like you've really gone far so far in this journey, and I'm just excited to see how much more you grow.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I haven't spoken about purely because when it comes to people I've worked for, even though some of the things involved have been like pretty incredible, I don't really like speaking about something where I don't have, the freedom to really like it's not even that there's an NDA. I just feel like there's a professional kind of relationship involved. Um, of course, I could sit here and talk about some of that stuff, and it would like add even more of a wow factor. But that's something like that's behind closed doors to really discuss.
Fair enough.
Unfortunately, but there's a lot of good stuff there. Very happy with everything I've learned so far, and it's kind of that focus on gratitude and feeling more grateful for some of the stuff that's come along the way rather than the thought of like why haven't I progressed more or if I started this earlier I could be a bit further than I am now.
Right. So, last question that I want to leave you off with. Do you Are you surprised by just how relevant self-improvement is to the fitness journey? Like
I'm
was
sorry, I
it
don't have any notes for this, so I can't answer the question. I was given
Okay,
no
okay. Wow, okay, you
I'm
can't
kidding,
speak on
I'm kidding, I'm
I'm kidding.
kidding,
Okay, don't worry,
I'm
don't worry.
kidding. No, I think they're very, very closely tied. Like when it comes to the cornerstones of kind of health, there's kind of like the body, the mind, and then the recovery. Although you could link that into both if you really wanted. But the body side, I think, is so important. Just as from my own experience, simple things like the amount of cardio I do will make such a large difference. Where if I'm not really if I'm not too good with my conditioning, especially during a bulk, it will get to a point where like you sit down, you feel sleepy. like it kind of you need to you do need these sort of things entering your life to overall create something which is very rounded and it's very important for self-improvement. You don't have to go hardcore into these sections. Like you don't have to become a guru, you don't have to become a like a monk or anything. You don't have to become a bodybuilder, but you do need to explore these areas, and you need to find what in your life is something where you need the consistency as like a no matter what. So for me, that would be like my sleep. No matter what, I'm gonna get at least 8 hours, but on average, I'm getting 9 hours of sleep. Stuff like that. Everyone needs to have their own stuff, which no matter what, they're kind of like sacred.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah,
yeah,
I totally feel you. You don't need to become like a Jeff Bezos Shaolin monk yogi living in the woods. But you do need to find things that enrich your personal life and how you integrate that, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for taking the time for being here with us. We're gonna enter into the Q&A section of this podcast. So, the Bonfire is the tribe's exclusive community-driven podcast. These sessions get recorded live on our Discord before going up on all platforms. So if you want to watch these as they're happening, or ask questions and meet other focused individuals like Fletcher and like myself, sign up with the tribe today. So with the audience with us today, do you guys have any questions for Fletcher after hearing his story? And thanks again, Fletcher, by the way, for taking the time to come out and tell us your journey.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm sure everyone else had a much larger turnout, but no, I'm joking.
Well, it's Morningstar, right? European crowd. I was hoping to get here. They stuck around for a bit. Actually, we had a bit of a crowd this
Mm.
morning, which is nice. But yeah, I think right now it's just like work hours for all across the globe, right? UK
UK
time zone.
time zone. Yeah, maybe that's cool's
Your
questions.
Fool's question is UK time zone emoji. Scared emoji.
I'm
Ghoul
20.
asks, "You're how old are you,
Oh,
Fletcher?"
sorry.
Sorry, no, it's okay. It's okay. Just gotta give context for the Spotify peeps. Ghoul asks, "How old are you, Fletcher?"
Yeah, I'm 20, but I'll
You're
be
only
21
only
in
20. Wow.
2 months. 2 months till 21, maybe. We'll see. Then I can legally drink in North America.
Nice. You'll be turning 21 just in time for the NA meetup. Come here, come get over here, bro.
Cheese
Uh,
says, I think it's.
jeez. Uh, Cheese, I think it's fascinating. Everyone has their own journey and how it shapes their purpose. Yeah, at the same time too, there were like a lot of like relevant points there that I could relate to Fletcher on, just like trying different things when you're young and just being experimental and at the same time just being like your own boss, like finding a lot of importance in that too, right? Like there's a lot there that I could relate to. Ghoul asks you, where do you see yourself in 5 years, Fletcher?
Honestly, I think in 5 years, I'll be in Canada eating some poutine and reading a nice newspaper.
Wow, really set the bar low for yourself, bro.
No, 5 years.
Yeah.
I, I, I get
Oh,
asked this all the time.
like you generally want to immigrate to Canada, or
Who knows, man? They have some good food, and they
okay,
have hockey.
right?
No, but when it comes to like this, right? When people ask me where do you see yourself, I always struggle so much with that question because especially when I'm like working for people on like contracts for certain sort of work, like I don't know, ad consultancy or like SEO or just building these sort of like platforms for companies. It just I struggle with it so much because I always have so many different projects and my interests vary so much where I genuinely have no clue where I'll be in 5 years. I know that whatever I'll be doing is something that I hope I enjoy. And hopefully, the brands I'm building now will be at a decent position to supplement my life or create different like adventures for me. But I, I just can't see it. There's no portal which can really show where I'm gonna be because I don't have a linear progression. I just have this kind of like spider web, and I'm always building like extra kind of bigger circles, but I'm going to different areas of this bigger web. I guess I am quite opportunistic. Oh, she's said she's in the chat said it's opportunistic mindset. Um,
I do agree with that.
so
Do you know where I see us in 5 years?
where what?
I see us touring the world like a self-improvement boy band. I keep bringing it up
I
as an
you've said
analogy,
that, but
but I mean, I freaking love it, dude. Because I feel like it's nice that we all have such different ventures in our lives that we find like a common goal to unite around it. And yeah, girl says self-improvement boy band. This was an analogy I used with Daisy like a long time ago, but all the group leaders are just like different parts of a boy band, and we're all just kind of making this album work.
wasn't it a thing you said once where it was like someone's Goku, someone like what was that?
Oh yeah, which member of Backstreet Boys are you? Yeah, we're all just like different self improvement like figures. Like AZ's like Marcus Aurelius. You were Goku, and I changed that to Wang Ling. I
Yeah,
I guess
Wangling.
I guess I'll give Ghoul Elon Musk for being the tech magnate. Or I guess I gave that to Fit at first, but yeah, just all just all these different figures in the self-improvement space. And I think the beautiful thing is because we all have such different passions, it's kind of beautiful that we can kind of unite it around just this common goal of creating a community of people who want to get better every day because we're doing that in our daily lives, right? And I think it's nice to just set that good example for a wider community out there because there are still more young guys out there that are still trying to find their way, right? So I think it's I think this really is going to be like the long-term project for us, right?
Yeah,
Ghoul says, which member of the Backstreet Boys are you? What do you think,
and she
Fletcher?
says exactly. What do I think? Which
Yeah.
one were the bags? I don't know any of them. Uh, that's a good question. It would
You gotta know
probably
at
be
least
the
one. You gotta know at least one.
do I
Justin Timberlake. Is he Backstreet Boys or NSYNC? I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get roasted if I get this wrong.
oh, it
Google.
has to be Kevin Richardson because he's got that goatee action.
Boys, Justin Timberlake was in NSYNC. I'm getting roasted. I fucked
We
up.
can cut it out. It's fine.
Okay.
As long as Cheese and Ghoul don't say, then it's okay.
Don't cut. Never cut.
Yeah, guys, resist the urge to cut.
Yeah, don't cut.
You have to plug your own
uh,
personal
yeah.
brand when you can.
Actually, Fletcher, I think we're getting close to the end of this episode. Do you have speaking of plugs, how can people find you online if they want to search for you?
Well, if they really want to, they they don't have to. No, it's fine. I didn't come here for recognition. I just came to speak.
I mean,
But
you aren't wrong.
if I have to, if I have to, it's kind of complicated right now because the thing I'd rather you go to is my YouTube, which is just Pool Fitness. But there are some other things that I'm building up, which I don't know how the growth is going to go or like how interesting the things are going to be. But for a lot of my long form content or even short form content, really, I test the waters using Twitter, where I kind of throw out these like snippets or long threads, and I use the kind of engagement on there to gauge what people are into, or I just use it as a notepad, really. Um, I also have TikTok, but I don't really like people using TikTok apart from to learn. I think that's the only like productive way to use it. People can argue with me against that, but in terms of a search engine, it can actually be pretty good at just showing you a visual um, to like any query you have a lot better than YouTube just because of the sort of content you're seeing and the interactability, like the comments could be quite good for like vetting a sort of idea. But it's kind of just those two things. There's my website, which is just poolfitness.com, but that's more focused around like my personal training clients. Although the blog there might be interesting to some. And that's basically all I need to plug. Well, there's also my gaming YouTube channel. That's if you want to go watch that. Feel free to. It's Fletcher Too Curious. So that
Okay,
one's a
great.
joke.
I will check it out.
No,
All
no,
right.
please don't.
All right, guys. Well, if you guys want to learn more about Fletcher or meet him on the Discord server, you guys know where to find us. This has been The Bonfire, the Tribe's exclusive community-driven podcast on Discord. If you guys want to join us for the next episode, you can sign up today through our website, and you can apply to be a member of the Discord server and meet other individuals who are keeping accountable and working on their goals every day. This has been The Bonfire with Art and Fletcher. Fletcher, thank you again for coming by, and we'll catch you for the next one, guys.